All right, and here we are, practice section 1. We've already looked at the notes, and now we're going to look at some phrasing on this, what to do with this. So the main thing that we talked about in the last video was counting through here, 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda. So that needs to always happen regardless of anything else that we're doing with this. So the very first thing to do is to be able to play it absolutely steady and straight. Boom. 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3. So the next thing is, I've already got these circled. The next thing that we can work with here is that we have these upper notes of this chord right here. And those are the melody, D, E, C sharp. And so we need to balance those out. 1 e-enda, 2. We need to be able to hear those. So the way to do that is to just poke that M finger down a little bit further than the other when you're playing that. Or whatever finger is playing the second string, just let it grab a little bit more string and then close it. You don't have to try to play that finger harder or anything else like that. Just do it with preparation. Stick that finger out a little bit further and then just close your hand gently for the chords. Because that's what we want to hear, is the melody. And the top note of this harmonic is the exact same way in the very first one. We want to hear the fourth string note as the loudest note on that. And then for here, start this quiet and then really pour it on at the very end. So we have quiet. And we want to make sure that we know we're getting all the way to here. This big long note right here, there's an accent over it. That is our landing spot. And we want to make sure that we sound like we're landing there. So we don't want to back off to that note. We want to drive all the way to there. So one big. Boom. So that you just land with both feet on that note. So practice getting very quiet. Now as you want to play this quiet, what's going to happen is that you're going to want to slow down. Well, first off, what's going to happen is that you're going to want to not count during that first chord. I'm just going to wait a little while and eventually I'm just going to come in depending on my feelings, and that's not the way to do it. Instead, 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 1 e-enda, 2 e. So getting that absolutely in time. 1 e-enda, 2 enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 1 e-enda. And then the next way, so those are slurs. Once you have these notes and you're ready to start putting some more into this, then what you can do is slow down this first bit. So you're going to actually retard through this right here, come in a little bit slow, get back up, accelerate through here, accelerate until you're landing right here, and then I would, for the first one, at least for the first, since this does repeat, then just go all the way through and stay in absolute time for that. So it ends up sounding like this. To do this, what you have to do, the retard right here happens in your counting. Your 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda. Otherwise, it's not going to sound right. So listen to this. 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, 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 1. And we'll talk about that in a second. So it's important that you count through here, especially if you're going to retard. So whenever you're slowing down or speeding up, it needs to be based on something. It's not, we don't do this just by feel. Instead, we want to subdivide. I mean, there is feel and there's kind of a gut, visceral timing thing that happens. But there's also what we call subdividing, and that's splitting something up. So 1 e-enda, 2 e-enda, 3 e-enda, then we can slow down that, and that gives us our entrance, and it also then can give us the rhythm so that it makes sense with what has come before. It makes absolute sense. So that's what we're going for, is, and really what we're going through for all this is structure. Whenever things slow down and speed up, we really need there to be an underlying structure that the listener can know is there and can feel it so that they know they're safe. Because listen to this. Like, you have no idea where you are in that. You don't know when I'm going to come in. You don't know what makes sense once I'm started. Once I've started, where's the rhythm? Where's this next note? Where should it go? We can't just push and pull and do weird things and have it make sense. Instead, there has to be this underlying thing going on, and that can slow down and speed up. And that's like a wheel that's slowing down and speeding up. And as long as we stay on that wheel, then that wheel can do quite a lot. It can slow down and speed up, but we have to still stay on it like a card stuck in the spokes of a bicycle. It slows down and the click gets slower. You speed up, the click gets faster. And so we want to always be structuring our timing in that way. So this happens the first time. The way that I like to do this is a little bit the first time through, but then keep this in part in absolute timing. The second time, a little bit more, and I actually articulate. I take the slurs out the second time and play it all with I and M alternation, and do a little bit more. And a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 3E and a double. Now there's kind of it's a rule, but it's not really, I don't know where it's actually written. And that is, whenever you have this last 16th like this, if you're slowing this down, you don't put the 16 into the retard, you put it in the original tempo. So it ends up being like almost like a 30-second, because otherwise it gets heavy. 1E is a little heavy-footed. So instead, 1E and a double. It's also called double dotting. 1E and. So put it in the original tempo. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a ba-da-da-da-da-da-ba-boom. So you put the last 16th in the original tempo, not in the retard. So that's just kind of a rule. It keeps things light, and it just sounds really heavy-footed if you don't do it that way. All right, just for kicks, I'm just going to play this thing one more time, talking through it. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1, 2 and a 3E and a 1, and then we'll go forward from there. So that is practice section 1. See you in the next one.